In Lisbon, even the light has judgment. It shimmers off the stone streets, peels up the old plaster along alley walls, and finds you wherever you hide. My shoes scraped those stones as I crossed the university's inner courtyard, every step heavy with hope and hidden dread. No one speaks to each other when they make that walk, but you can feel the same tremor behind every face, the jumbled mix of fear and secret belief. The committee's room was lined with windows, but the blinds were half closed, cutting the sunlight into hard slits across the desk. Three professors sat behind their barrier of papers and mugs. My canvas rested before them, upright, battered from travel. An old habit, too much squeezing paint straight onto the brush, not onto the palette. It made my colors wild, blues that veered into black, sunlight falling on a woman's face in ochre so deep they called it surreal. "This is passionate," Professor Medeiros said, lips pressed flat. Every praise in that room was wrapped in tissue-thin apology. "Unrefined, perhaps," Professor Carvalho added, tilting her head with polite skepticism. I tried not to flinch. Tired late evenings, the backs of my hands dry and cracked from terps, months spent on this submission, every aching night reduced to a wrinkle at the edge of her mouth. "You have skill, Joe," Professor Medeiros said, "but our program is for students who wish to learn. This," he tapped the edge of my painting, "is more impulsive than disciplined." "We must decline your application," Carvalho said, softer, as if stepping on a bird. I nodded because words wouldn't come. A rejection letter would follow, but this was the real moment. My painting looked foreign there, bright, reckless color in a beige room. They passed it back to me with a forced smile, ready to move on. When I stepped out, the city sound pressed in at once, the echo of trams, clatter from the cafe, voices rising over nothing. I walked away slowly, the canvas tucked under my arm, and didn't look back. Back home in Alfama, the cramped stairwell echoed with my steps. The apartment was knives and corners, my mother's purse on the table, the radio humming fado, smells of garlic and soap. My little sister, Innie Circumflex, swung her legs over the balcony, watching the pigeons. My father sat at the table, the afternoon beer still half foamed, knuckles battered from years of fixing elevators. "Well," he asked, "never one for soft landings." They said no. I put down my bag, heat rising into my cheeks. My father studied me, then the painting, face unreadable. My mother stirred the soup quieter. "I told you," my father said finally, like taking an unsatisfying bite of bread. "This art thing, they want people with connections or rich parents." He shrugged and reached for the beer again. "You have hands, you can work. Be smart." Later, after supper, my uncles drifted in, always around when there was news to dissect. My mother tried to hush them, but the words wouldn't stay bottled. "A painter, he says," T. Maynell laughed. His thick fingers fanned a deck of cards. "We all wanted to be footballers or singers. What's next? Movie star." "The boy is dreamer," Tia Lena said, halfway between pity and scorn. I said nothing, just went to my corner, drawing Innie Circumflex's side profile on a scrap of envelope. Her hair tumbled loose, hiding one eye. Someone snorted behind me, not sure who. They talked louder, as if it would drown out the hush that fell when I entered a room. I wanted to disappear. Days frayed into one another. My mother pressed for jobs. My father pointed me toward his friend at the bakery, toward construction sites, anywhere but my paints. I spent mornings sketching in the old Meradero Park, looking at the city's spill of orange tile roofs and soft haze over the river, and afternoons lugging crates at a grocer's for just enough to keep my head down at dinner. The money was simple, honest, 2 blistered palms and no time to paint, but when quiet came, I stole it. I catalogued the world in sketches: a fisherman asleep on the tram, a woman chasing a scarf down the raw Augusta wind, the stooped spice seller in the Martin Moniz market. Color waited inside me like an ache. A year passed. The family grew used to my routine as if I'd failed at something trivial. Work, home, eat, draw in the dark. No university admission, no prizes. Just Joe, too stubborn to let go of childish things. Then one afternoon at the market, I watched a tourist couple study ceramics under the shade. They wore yellow, sunshine, careless, no margin for doubt. The woman spotted my sketchbook as I waited in line. She peeked, pointing at a quick drawing of the river. In broken Portuguese, she asked for my name, took my trembling hand and dropped a note inside it. That evening, with slanted sunlight pooling across my desk, I messaged her. She replied quickly. She wanted to buy my drawing. More than that, she had a friend who ran a small gallery in Madrid. I told no one. Chasing hope quietly so it didn't escape. Her friend bought more sketches, then asked for larger work. I painted with a hunger no job could erase, using my bundle of saved coins for paint and canvas, eating less to pay for delivery. A local cafe agreed to a small exhibition. The paintings were crowded together above chipped tables, all oranges and lilac shadows, faces blurred with emotion. At the opening, no family came. My father was at work. My mother sick with nerves, claiming a headache. Innie Circumflex crept by after school shy, left a wilting flower by my stack of flyers. I pretended indifference as Lisbon's after-office crowd filed through, their world layered above mine. But the night went well. I sold 2 pieces, then another by week's end. The cafe asked for more. It was nothing grand, but it was real. For months I lived those 2 lives. Mornings at the grocer's, sleeves rolled, back sore. Evenings at the cafe, straightening paintings no one I knew mentioned. Small shows in nearby bars. Sometimes people stared at my name on the label, unsure, as if I might be someone. But at home, silence. Just my mother's measured kindness and my father's impatience. Then, stepping into late summer, everything changed. An email arrived from Madrid's gallery. Their owner wanted me to show 6 paintings at their autumn opening, alongside other emerging artists. I had 30 days. 30 days to capture Lisbon as it burned and swelled beneath the late sun, the restless water, the ache of old apartments, the fight of everyday life. I painted with everything I had. Sometimes at the river's edge in blinding light, sometimes half drunk on cheap wine, fear and courage tumbling in equal measure. My fingers cramped, my vision blurred. At dawn, I'd walk to the Miradoro, watching colors climb the roofs and let it all fall onto canvas. I barely told my mother. She looked at me, not sure whether to worry. My father asked where I was going, what was wrong with me, why I came home covered in paint. I lied a little about odd jobs, late shifts, deliveries. When I hinted at the exhibition, the words seemed to bounce off the kitchen tile, unwelcome and soon forgotten. Packing my canvases, I stared at the narrow windows and the crowded rooms of our flat. I left a note for Innie Circumflex, promising to call. I slept on an overnight train to Madrid, head full of doubts. What if they failed there too? What if I came back with nothing? The gallery stood in a narrow street, glass and pale wood, its windows wide open to the crowd. My work hung beside names I didn't know but had learned to respect, all colors alive with hunger. Strangers studied my Lisbon and found something there they wanted: memory, hope, ache. On opening night, a woman in a navy dress bought 2 pieces, pressing my hand in both gratitude and something grander, recognition. 5 of my 6 paintings sold before the month was out. I found myself flush with euros, enough to clear my debts and send money home. The gallery owner offered to represent me. It should have felt triumphal. But victory comes slow, edged with doubt, with the memory of all those nights the city turned against me. I paced Madrid's streets under garish lights, half lost in longing for Alfama, its thousand shadows and music always tinged with weariness. I returned to Lisbon lighter, weighed down only by news I was almost scared to share. The city's hills leaned toward the river again, same as ever, no banners. My family greeted me like I'd never left. My father wanted to know if I'd found real work. My uncle called me pintor in a tone that mocked the word. It would have been easy to hide, to let my success stay far away, spill only in letters to those who wanted to hear. But I wanted something else, not revenge, but a kind of return, to have them see, not just guess, what I had built while they looked away. That winter, the city's art council announced a new public mural initiative. A chance for local artists chosen by jury to paint Lisbon's blank walls. For the first time, I submitted under my full name, Joe Miguel Fernandez. I sent photos of my Madrid work, a sketch for a mural on an old tram depot near Santa Apollonia, my heart shaking but steady. The reply came in spring, a sealed envelope, city seal pressed in blue. I was chosen. The payment was enough to matter. The wall was 3 blocks from my house. When I announced it at dinner, my father looked up at me for the first time in months. "What'll you paint? Footballers, beautiful girls," he joked, but quieter this time. "Lisbon," I said, "the way we see it." They came to watch me mark the first lines, my mother hesitant, Innie Circumflex excited. My father pretending he was just passing by. At first, neighbors gathered at a distance, arms folded, waiting to be amused. A few of my old classmates jeered from the footpath, guessing at what I'd screw up. But as the days passed, colors bloomed across the bricks. Mornings found the narrow street alive with whispers and phones snapping pictures, the river curling into alleyways, clotheslines traced in gold, battered shoes and laughing faces beside solemn elders. I painted my sister, nose wrinkled at the sun, my mother's hands hanging laundry, even the thick-knit eyebrows of my uncle wrapped in a scarf. My family visited each day by late afternoon, as if attendance itself was a way of rewriting old doubts. Tio Maynell stopped joking, started pointing me out to his friends. My father lingered at the back, watching in silence. Once, I caught him running a finger along the edge of the wall, almost reverent. I worked until my hands blistered, until sunset fell, mixing in the low chords of fado drifting from an open window. The mural was nearly finished when the Art Council came for their inspection, cameras, press, officials in neat shoes. I stood beneath my own work, nerves raw, trying not to hear the old laughter echoing in my head. Then a voice behind me, "Isn't that your boy, Paulo?" a neighbor called to my father. He stood a little straighter. "Sim," he answered too quickly. Pride flickered in his voice, an old flame rekindled. The officials asked for an interview. Reporters scribbled my name. Locals pressed forward, saying where they saw themselves in the painting, pointing out corners and faces and streets. That night, as I locked my brushes away, my father walked home with me step for step. At the door he stopped, putting a hand on my shoulder. "I didn't know," he began, voice thin. Then gave up on apologies and hugged me, hard and awkward. For the first time I felt the city had let me in, not just the marble council plaques, but this, the rough embrace of home. At the mural's unveiling, the narrow street was crammed, from alley to tram rail, neighbors, cousins, old friends, skeptics. My father stood in front, arms folded, a new pride woven into the set of his jaw. My mother clutched Innie Circumflex's hand, tears loose on her cheeks. The Art Council unveiled the plaque with my name. Cameras caught the moment. Behind the flash, I saw the faces of those who once dismissed me, Tio Maynell pressing forward for a photo, Tia Lena nudging her husband. My old classmates quiet for once. They saw the proof, my colors, bright and undeniable, made permanent on their world. Afterward, the mayor reached for my hand. An old woman whispered obrigado, as if I'd painted her memories as well as my own. My family stayed late, Innie Circumflex dancing on the curb. That night, as the neighborhood grew quiet and the city settled under its shared stars, I walked the length of my wall. The paint still tacky in the damp, the faces glowing as if lit from within. I pressed my palm to the bricks, the rough coolness grounding me. I'd come back, not larger than life, not a hero, but as myself, remade by struggle, fear, small victories. Shame lingered along the edges but was folded into something gentler, transformed by the proof of paint, of place, of belonging. Lisbon's light moved across the mural, the city finally seeing its painter and me seeing myself in it at last.